Hello, everyone. My name is Lewis Harris, and you are here at the Record in Progress podcast, the podcast that I created in the wake of the 2024 presidential election and really the whole election, because I was one of the people who, sorry to say or not, I was surprised at the election results of this election. And it made me realize that I didn't do enough to affect the election in the way I wanted to see it go. And so my response to that is to, and really it's turning out to be my therapy for that, is to have created this podcast. And so I've been really lucky to be joined by so many great people, folks that I know personally, who all have different perspectives. But the purpose for the podcast, again, is to share perspectives, stories, and narratives to create understanding and a pathway towards a unified society that is better for all of us. And so I'm lucky to have my next guest, who is a friend that I've known for
I think it's 20 years now since we were in middle school,
this,
seventh
this.
grade.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a long time. And
I didn't think about that too.
yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and have you introduce yourself, please.
All right. My name is Jessica Lyon. I am I'm single mom. I have two little girls, which is a big part of what affected my feelings from this post-election.
So the next question is, how do you identify yourself?
Female, she, they, majority of the time. I am not only the mother, I am the father to my children. So I pick up both roles. And I'm straight technically, but I've been queer curious before. So yeah.
Got it. And so the next question I have for you, Jessica, is what state and city do you live in?
I live in a little town called Mallotte, Washington.
Okay.
So yeah, like 500 people live here. Or maybe it's 1,000 now, but it's small.
The next question I have for you is, what do you do?
A lot of things. Obviously, like I'd say on paper, it looks like a stay-at-home mom, but I've been a model, done some plus size modeling, a few campaigns. That was something I really love. And currently I am creating and curating business to be doing like videography and like video commercials, as well as I'm an amateur content creator. And that's really where my passion is.
All right. So, okay. So you do content. So you
Yeah,
understand also the value of communicating
absolutely.
ideas to other people.
Absolutely. That's why I share my content, because something else I guess I should add as well is I'm a domestic violence survivor. And part of my content is talking about my experience with a narcissist sociopath. And I really think it's important for us to be vulnerable and share these stories so we can find community and help others with our stories.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Right. It shows the depth of who you are.
absolutely. I know what
I'm
you
not
mean.
trying to glorify anything, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like the worst part of society, in my opinion, for a lot of reasons. But
Truly, it
when you
is.
come out on the other side of something like that, I believe that you will have learned something, or you might be stronger because of that. And I don't know how your feelings about that, but
What's interesting is I've had this thought about anything that evolves from trauma. That's how we evolve, unfortunately. But like it's those experiences that were really difficult for us really shape us and make us choose the directions we go in life. So of course, it was terrible, but I'm thankful that I came out of it and I can help others who are experiencing it, or maybe just don't understand what happened to them and their experience and feel validated in that.
thank you for doing that work then.
Yeah,
So the next question, which is the last of the who are you questions, is
sure.
what is a credential that you use most often to sell yourself on job applications?
I'm a people person. I even at my local yoga studio, that was the nickname I had when I was on their council, was I am just the community people person. I just know how to talk to people and engage with others. So that's where I led to marketing anyway.
That's excellent. Excellent. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the discussion, starting with how did you vote in the 2024 presidential election?
So this was like something I had a difficulty with very much for multitudes of reasons. I'm going to first rip the Band-Aid and tell you I didn't vote. And that is part of the reason why I'm here. because I feel ashamed of myself for not doing more. And however, by the time I wanted to vote, it was the day of. So I had no chance to get in there and fix what I needed to become registered to vote and vote. And then the next election, I will make sure that I do in whatever future elections we have. And the reason why I didn't was I do not agree with Trump and pretty much any of his policies. I'm really uncomfortable with who he is as a person and a businessman. He has basically ruined every company he's ever had. And that from someone who's trying to start a business is disheartening. And then he's a known sex offender. How do you say that? He like sexual assault. Like
I mean,
what's that rapist? I don't like using that word, but
misogynist or sexual assault perpetrator,
there we go. Yeah.
something.
Yeah. So
All
sexual
of those
assault
things,
and
actually.
those are things that are really uncomfortable for me because I am a sexual assault survivor. And when it comes to Kamala, the reason why I had an issue with it was because of Biden and how he's dealt with the war on Gaza. I have very close friends of mine, like family friends, who are from Egypt, and some of them still live in Egypt, right by the border of Palestine. And so they're directly affected, and it's really difficult because it's someone I love who could possibly, like, it can spill over, and that's been a constant concern in that area. And that was something I just felt so against. Like, how can you support a genocide and say that you support our people? That really made me nervous. But then I watched her. And while it really is a difficult position to be in to make that decision, and I know as a VP, she really doesn't have much that she can do, I had hope that maybe a woman like her, who I could tell actually had true empathy, would help the country grow in some way. So if I could go back in time, which is not possible, I would have voted for Kamala. And in the future, if she does come up again, I will.
No, and and the reality is that with this podcast and with people I care about and who are friends to me, like, it's not about sharing political ideologies or sharing, even approaches to American civic responsibility or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I have people in my life and I've connected with people over the years because I care and, like, let's bring light to each other's life type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I'm
Yes.
at, right? And that's where I know
Yes.
you were at too. So
Yeah.
I don't want that question to feel like I just don't want you to feel like you need to have regrets for how you voted. There's we're all on a journey, this because we're both very spiritually inclined people.
Yeah.
There's things in your journey that led you to not do that
It's
proactively.
true.
And that's
That's very
okay.
true.
That's okay, right? And I just
Yeah.
want, like, I just want listeners and you to know that we're not trying to create a necessarily a standard model or these are the minimum expectations you should be doing. No, we're just showing how other people have lived their life and just creating some mutual understanding about that's
Yeah.
what I want from the end of the day. So
Exactly. I agree.
so the next question I have for you
Yeah.
are three feelings you have about the results of the 2024 presidential election.
Seer. I don't know. There's always hope. For maybe this is the darkness we go in, the shadow we go in to uncover the light, to have
Yeah,
these conversations. Like you said before, trauma is what creates evolution. Maybe this is how we evolve.
I'm here for that. Here
Yeah.
for that. That's great. Okay. So then the next question, which you alluded to in the last one,
Sure.
but I would love for you to expand on here, is what do you fear most about the next Trump presidency?
I have two little girls. Roe versus Wade has been overturned. What's going to happen to them? What if something happens to them, they get sexually assaulted, they get pregnant, and across the board, the entire United States, they're stuck having to birth a child that came from a really terrible event. Not all trauma is the same either. I should probably clarify that. The other thing is, I have a lot of friends who are part of the queer community, very close friends. and they're affected by this. And I have African American friends, and I think you talked about it on the last podcast, but I've seen it as well. They're receiving these terrible racist text messages
Yeah.
talking about going to a cotton farm. The fact that this is something that people think is okay, and like they don't understand the fear that others are experiencing out of their own ignorance sometimes, it frightens me for them. It frightens me, especially for my children. They're still young. They don't know who they are yet. They don't know what orientation they are yet. But what if they're persecuted in case they go in that direction? I'm scared for all of those things. And I haven't seen it improve since the first election that he was in, only gotten worse. So those are my greatest fears.
And when you say improve, you're talking about the things that he talks about and how he talks about
Yes,
this and stuff like
exactly. Exactly. And the kind of cult following
that.
that they have. And even like in my own family, my parents, I know they voted for him. And it's really difficult to navigate those conversations because
Yeah.
I live in a house from them that I rent from them. So I try to have them see my point of view, and it's difficult. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's also interesting. You're talking about how the conversations are difficult to have with them.
Mhm,
And I want to take that opportunity as what I was a supporter of the Kamala Harris campaign. I was a supporter for the Biden campaign. But when
mhm.
Kamala stepped into the ring, I felt energized to do more. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I did was I was paying attention to how I can contribute, right? Like door knocking, phone banking, which is making phone calls to voters and whatnot in different areas. And so I
Yeah.
was getting into understanding how I can support the campaign by volunteering. And
Yeah.
one of the things that they suggested was having the influence or having conversations with your family members and people who are close to you, right?
Mhm.
And to some, and I don't want to even overgeneralize this. That was difficult for me because the family members that I know are supportive of Trump's ideologies or Trump this presidency, like I don't want to get into the situation where I have to be mad at them for their political views. Uh,
Absolutely.
and and I believe that the bonds that bind us, love and community, friends, camaraderie, I believe that those things are more important than political ideologies and whatnot. Obviously, there's repercussions for individuals when politics is against them or for them in a certain way, and it creates the social tension that we've seen, right? But I too had a hard time having conversations with those around me because of how polarized we are right now.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to another guest and they were saying, you know, the polarization, it didn't used to be that way. Like you would be a Democrat and Republican, but you'd still show up to Thanksgiving and you could even
Mhm.
have conversations at Thanksgiving and still walk away like being friends and family. These days, like people are unfriending and blocking people on social media, and it just feels like a very toxic
Yes.
space. And
And I've been there before with my family. I took time away when I was in a bad place and I separated from my parents, and I don't want to do that again. And like, I understand that we have different political views. Even my eldest sister and I, our political views are much more aligned. And we both tried to have the discussion with them, and they're pretty set in their ways. And I have to say, I don't know if people understand that there are groups of people that believe that spiritually Trump knows what he's doing and he's not actually sharing it, and that you have to look through the lines, and they're looking through these lines, and sometimes those spiritual things add up because my
mm,
parents are both spiritual people. And to me, it's difficult navigating it because we tend to see the world so similarly, yet in this instance, we are so apart.
interesting. It's interesting you say that because another thing that I've been conceptualizing is when, like, for example, like we people on the left have said, "Oh, Trump is a dictator and he's an authoritarian and
Mhm.
he's going to erode the American democratic idea or institutions."
Yeah.
And that's the rhetoric on the blue side. The rhetoric on the red side is that Biden and Kamala are dictators and that they're wanting to erode the American way of life. And so what you said is that we might have different ideas and views of the world, and that those differences almost feel like the same view, just with a different light. Like the shadows
Mhm.
are the
Mhm.
light and the light over here are the shadows. And it just feels like they're two facets of the exact same thing. And even the same way of thinking, it's just the
Exactly.
manifestations of those thoughts are different.
Yes. And I think a lot of it too, especially because I am a white woman and so my parents are white as well. I think sometimes they look at people that look like this. And I'd have to say, I want to like clarify my parents have never had are not racist people. And that's the difficult thing because I do hear a lot of people saying, if you vote for Trump, you're a racist person. Well,
Right.
my aunt voted for Trump and she's Native Hawaiian.
Mm,
So my entire side of my family that are Hispanic, like they voted for Trump. And we have so many of the same views except for this, which is so bizarre to see that, especially like the Hispanic community and the things that have been said about
right.
it from some of his, I know it wasn't directly from him. It was from like commentators at his functions and his rallies. But
Sure.
at the same time, these are the people you affiliate yourself with. And really, truly, who you surround yourself with is who you are.
Mhm.
And so watching that was so difficult. Yeah.
No, it's, yeah, lots to parse out here.
Mhm.
So the next question I have for you is, what do you hope most about the next Trump presidency?
Then we start having more conversations like this. This really prompted me to be more vulnerable. I've been in a state of also working on my mental health and I've been in therapy for quite some time. And this really brought me to an intrusive thought place because I was so frightened. What can I do to save my kids? And it was definitely triggering for my PTSD as a domestic violence survivor. And I bet there are a lot of other people who are experiencing that. A lot of women are scared right now because we don't know what's going to happen and we don't know how it's going to affect us. A lot of people are saying it's like we're living the handmaid's tale.
Mhm.
And I can't lie. It's weird how much that show and real life are mirroring each other. So, but my hope is because of those things, because we've seen those things and we're having these conversations and these fears are being brought to light. Now, can we move through them and work through them?
Right. Because that is an essential part of any sort of traumatic healing, right?
Absolutely.
Is one, getting a clear understanding of what happened, two, correcting the narrative that you came away from that.
Yes.
You know what I'm correct when I say correcting the narrative,
Yep.
like it's
I know
like
exactly what you mean.
I didn't cause this. This was that person and their choices.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
they had the capacity to do that. I didn't do anything but be a part of that you know what I mean? So like,
Yes. Yes. Especially those of us who are very empathetic people. I feel emotions very deeply. Like you said, we're spiritual people. And on top of what I do, I also am a spiritual coach and I am a tarot reader and an astrologer. And I use those things to help me feel safe. The one thing was that really, and actually, I'm not the only one, a lot of us in the spiritual community thought Kamala was going to win, except for one of my friends. Really intuitive woman. She had a feeling that he was going to end up winning and she was right. And she's like this one person that I met that I'm like, anything she says, I believe. You might like her. She wrote a book. I should send it to you, the information on it. She's an interesting person. But, anyways,
oh, that's good.
getting off topic, I apologize.
No, no, this is organic. So it is good. Spirituality is a topic that it's fundamental to humanity, right? I'm not saying all humans believe in spiritual approaches to things, but I'm saying spirituality, like religion, what religion tries to have us do or
Yes,
focuses us
correct.
to do, right, is
Yeah.
really connect with the grander being of all of us, right? So
Yes, correct.
absolutely.